Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Big Future. I'm Brian Wong, and I have with me Randy Kirk, and he'll kind of interview me. We'll discuss my ideas around what the Tesla Semi means, because people in general don't seem to get it, and then also the Megapack. The impacts are really, really world-changing, and people need to understand it as simply as possible. So, Randy,
yeah. So I want to be able to. What our goal here is to make this so simple that I understand it, and if I can understand it, then almost everybody should be able to understand it. And so we're going to attack this. We basically, I think, have two things that we want to get across today. One is the truck itself is going to have a huge impact on everything, on profits for Tesla, on overall gross volume for Tesla, on the use of batteries, on the world at large, the main mission of Elon Musk and Tesla to advance the transition to a sustainable future. And that trucks do this, these semi trucks are going to do this on a scale. I believe you've calculated out now. Let me get it straight. Is it going to be 10 times the value, so to speak, of the $25,000 car?
So it's if you look at it in terms of the $25,000 car, the overall market for it is about 20 million vehicles. Of the 80 million vehicles
per year,
small passenger car vehicles that are sold per year, the $25,000 car would address about 20 million of those vehicles, right? So 20 million times 25, that is $500 billion, right? Yeah, 20 million times 25 is 500 million times 1,000 is billion, $500 billion per year, right? But it's clear that BYD, the China companies, they're all over the $25,000 car, right? It's definitely not unique. Like Tesla, in its most dominant form, had about 70 and had as much as 80% of the U.S. car EV market.
Right.
So, and the U.S., doesn't buy that many new $25,000 cars, right? There are some, right, but not that many. The U.S. is 2/3 big SUV. So, but Europe and China and Asia have more of the cheaper car, right? 20 million. But then because you have these strong China competitors, Tesla could end up with 20 to 40% of that market. So 20% means $100 billion, 40%, $200 billion, right? So nice big markets, right? But Tesla Semi and the Megapacks that I say must go with them can go to $2 trillion, right? So that means it would be 10x the largest reasonable market share of $25,000 car that Tesla could have. So I get to the $2 trillion by 4 million global large/semi trucks in the world, right, per year. I have some analysis where I say that might even go faster than that because the world-changing aspect of it.
Right.
But then also I'm saying that the batteries and the cost of the Megapack roughly equals the semi truck. So 4 million times $250,000 is $1 trillion, 4 million per year, and then matching Megapacks is another $1 trillion, so $2 trillion. That's how that comes out. And I have, of course, far more detailed calculation than that, but just to kind of get the high level, and the round numbers. So
now you're 4 million trucks a year. That would be 100% of the total semi truck market.
Pretty much 100% of the world's semi/large truck. China has large truck, but the simplified way of viewing Cybertruck F-150 trucks versus medium trucks versus large/semi trucks, right? So large/semi trucks, fully loaded, 40 tons. That's including the vehicle, the trailer, and the payload inside, right? Roughly 40 tons, right? And then The medium trucks, they weigh about 4 to 7 tons, right? They're empty, they weigh 4 to 7 tons. And then again, you add the payload on, say 15 tons or something like that, you're in the 15 to 20 ton range, right? And then the Cybertruck F-150s weighing about 3 tons with about 5 tons of payload, 8 ton-ish. If you got Tesla at 7 tons, 14,000 pounds of towing, then you got 10 tons. So the simple way to view that is that unit of 1 for the max loaded Cybertruck is 10 tons, 1. Medium truck is 20 tons, 2. Semi truck is 4.
I
So
see.
1, 2, 4. That's
So,
how that works.
so, but when you analyze it in terms of 4 million trucks, are you saying 4 million total trucks between those three?
I'm saying 4 million large trucks only. Large trucks only is.
But that would be 100. But that would be 100% of the market. So
100% of the annual current global market.
right.
Correct.
But
I'm
you're assuming that nobody else sells a truck in 2030,
Um,
a semi truck or a large.
yeah,
truck.
I'm saying that Tesla's lead is so dominant and it's so hard to get to a super efficient towing, and the fact that you need the batteries. If we shave off 10%, 20%, that they're at the 80% domination that they enjoyed for several years,
Right.
In the United States,
Right.
right? That happened for nearly a decade.
Right.
Tesla's at 80% of the
Right.
US market, right? I'm saying same situation, even stronger than that. Because when I look at the existing electric semi trucks created by Freightliner has 40% of the
Sure.
diesel trucks, the diesel
Mhm.
semi trucks, right?
Mhm.
Dominant, and they're owned by Daimler. That has 40% of the European semi truck market. So this is like the strongest diesel semi truck competitor guy. They made the e-Cascadia. Took them 5 years. Super proud of the work that they did to make this e-Cascadia semi truck, electric truck, right? Had a range of about 120, 150 miles with a 300 kilowatt hour battery pack, right? So not 500 miles. So 500 miles down to 120, 150, even questions, under full load and other things like that, how much? But basically, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, 150 or even 200. Let's they're great. They improve it 200. There are some guys at the 200-mile range. Nikola has one that has 330 miles of range in theory, but it's a far heavier EV vehicle. But anyone is, in these competitors are down to 250 mile range, right? And they're at 2.1 to 2.4 kilowatt hours per mile. So the kilowatt hours per mile, like the MPG, miles per gallon equivalent.
Right.
So if we're ballparking, just simple calculation, just saying that Tesla's at say 15 miles per gallon electric equivalent, right? Versus these other guys down at for the fuel, they're at 7 miles per gallon, right? But for the EVs, because of that 2.5, let's set that 1.7 versus them at 22, 24. Sorry, let me do the simple calculations. If the 1.7 kilowatt per mile,
right,
let's just say that converts to 17 miles per gallon,
right?
Then the 22, 24 converts to inverse of that, like 10 miles per gallon, right? So 17 miles per gallon down to 10 miles per gallon. So there's a big gap between Tesla's efficiency and theirs. There's a big gap between the range and theirs. So it's like you have a Model 3 2017 with 300 miles of range versus the Nissan Leaf at 120 miles of range. Right. The Nissan Leaf is pure garbage, and people aren't going to buy it, especially for these commercial purposes.
Okay, so so what you've made the case for so far is that Tesla could be dominant in this category for 10 years. Maybe they're going to have 100%, 80%, 70%, who knows, market share. Even if it was 50% market share, it would be massive numbers if they were doing 2 million trucks a year. So that we know that they have this massive opportunity. My question, the next question then is, though, how does that compare in terms of the mission to building a $25,000 car? So I think that was something you also mentioned the other day, that a $25,000 car is going to be this amount of benefit to the environment, or this amount of benefit in terms of taking CO2 out of the environment, but that the truck would be multiple times the benefit of the $25,000 car, let's say, or of the Model 3. I don't care which one you use, but as Tesla's making decisions over the years, the semi truck, I think you're claiming, would be multiple times more beneficial to the mission.
Right. So, though there's those calculations of how many trucks per year, the U.S. has, in terms of its fleet of old semi trucks, it's about 4 million, right? 4 million semi trucks. So they buy 270,000 per year, but they have 4 million because they last for 15, 20 years, right? 25 years. And then globally, there's more trucks in China and Asia, about 10 times more, right? So add up all those big trucks, include the medium trucks, which are actually fewer medium trucks than semi trucks, and then take the light trucks, as well, right? So 40 million light trucks, F-150s, used for work, not for someone driving around, just because they like the look of it.
Sure.
So 40 million of that. So add up all those vehicles, and which I say Tesla will dominate all of that, right? Because of their efficiency with moving large weight towing, which was proved with the semi.
Right.
That is 17 million barrels per day of oil. Of the world uses 100 million barrels per day, 17% of oil usage is trucks. And then because these are driving around all the time, the pollution on them is 20 to 40 times an average passenger vehicle, right? So if I have 4 million semi trucks per year versus 12 million 25K cars, right? Or let's say 20 million 25K cars, right? Then there's 5 times more 25K cars than semis, but the semi has 20 to 40 times the pollution. It has more oil usage and everything like that. So the oil usage on a 25K car that's driving 15,000 miles per year. And so that's, like a cheap car that's getting 40 miles per gallon, right? And then you're using 400 gallons in your small vehicle, right? For one small vehicle. I'm replacing that with an EV. The semi truck driving 100,000 miles, getting 7 miles per gallon. Let's say 70,000 miles, just to make it easier. That's 10,000 gallons of diesel, right? Wow. 10,000 gallon diesel versus 400.
Wow.
25 times.
All right. So our first claim then is that if Tesla was trying to advance the future of sustainability and reduce the amount of CO2 and soot and brake dust and everything else in the atmosphere, they should put way more effort into building semis and try to get up to that 4 million a year, as opposed to worrying so much about whether they do 10 million $25,000 cars.
Right.
Yeah. The other side of that coin, of course, is the $25,000 car might also be the robo-taxi, which has another component to it. But then you can flip back again to the semi truck and say, well, those might be robotic as well, and that might have a bigger impact than robo cars. So there's a lot of trade-offs there, but I think the case is clear that Tesla should be putting massive amounts of their talent and capabilities into building semis, and even coming out with the medium-sized truck as well as the smaller trucks as well. All right. So then the second part of this, for the stockholder again, and for the advancement of the future of sustainability, would be that a sale of a Tesla truck, a semi truck, we'll just use semi truck for now, cannot be a standalone thing. Just like when the cars were being rolled out, there has to be fueling stations. Without the fueling stations, it's useless to have the semi truck.
Right.
In this particular case, we have 2 probable places where these fueling stations are going to go. One of those would be in existing truck stops, or something like a truck stop where people that have one truck would go to get filled up. And then we have either the manufacturing or distribution centers where these trucks would be most often parked while they're being loaded or unloaded. Those would be the other obvious place to put a fueling station. So let's concentrate for the moment on a Pepsi type of situation where they might have 20 trucks at their bottling plant. I don't know if that's a right number. It might be double that or half that. I don't know. Let's, for fun, we'll say they have 20 trucks going and coming from this bottling plant. And then that bottling plant is sending those 20 trucks off to 10 or 20 different distribution outlets or to grocery stores, wherever it is that they're taking these final bottled products. And these trucks are coming back and forth all day long. And we think, based on a little bit of checking, and maybe you have a different number than I do, that those trucks might be going about 300 miles a day. They don't go at night. They're sitting at night for the most.
No, I think they may be going at night.
They might be going at night. Okay.
Because
going all the time.
Because of depending upon where they're at. Like I know in California where I am, that LA, all those places, Bay Area, they're restricting semi trucks, to evening hours, non-rush hour times, which rush hour is pretty much all day in LA, or like non-rush hour times. So then you have a window, so you can drive overnight, and then you have a window when you can do your deliveries. Before 6 a.m., right, after 10 a.m., right, to 2 a.m. But then when between that 7 to 10 and from 4 to 7 in the evening, you don't want semi trucks clogging up the road, messing up the commute.
Well, right? They do. I can tell you they do in my half of California.
Right. But then they're restricting and saying, yes, you may still drive during the day, but they're really trying to say, drive at night. Especially if you're going long distances. If I'm going from here to there, that's why when you're doing overnight drive, you see a lot more semi trucks when you're doing your road trip, right? You see them more at night because suddenly there'll be a line going. They are resting and stuff. So, but it's kind of like 18 hours of the day they're on the road. When they have the openings to go non-commute.
Well, I haven't done any study on this at all, so I'm just guessing based on years and years and years in business that the vast majority of the trucks that are the big trucks, the semi trucks that are out there, are either the Pepsi kind of situation where it's a moving large quantities of foodstuffs to grocery stores or foodstuff to distribution centers, or they're moving stuff from the dock to the distribution centers, or they're moving stuff from the those would be the two biggies. And then you have the partial load guys that are picking up stuff from smaller factories and moving those around. But I don't think that's the big part of it. The big part of it, I think, is the first two, and probably the most likely first taker on this, not the Amazons of the. So if we have those kind of guys, forget whether it's day and night. We could probably find that out in a quick minute. Maybe somebody will put it in the comments, whether these are going 24/7 or whether the second and third shifts are lighter or just how that might work. Okay.
Sure.
For now, let's just assume that the 300 mile a day is a real number. And that's what we can expect these trucks, even if they're going 24/7, that they're still only doing 300, 350 miles a day. And this would be one fill up per day. So in order to do that, they're going to need energy at the factory and or at the distribution center and or at the store. Let's call it a Walmart or something like that. They're going to So in order to fill these guys up while they're loading and unloading or when they're sitting still for a while, they're going to need energy. And what we've learned is, what you've learned is, what you basically exposed to the world, nobody talking about it at all, is that you can't do that without a mega charger.
Right.
A Megapack.
Right, because typically, so you have the power stations, which, there's several thousand power stations in the United States, right? And then there's 50,000 distribution substations in the United States. And then when you get power from a substation, right, then it typically is capping out at about 300 kilowatts, a large amount of power. Just the power coming into your home might be coming at 200 or a kilowatt or something like that, but coming into a big factory or something like that, 300 kilowatts, a lot of power.
That's a wire about that big around, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
A literal cable fire hose coming into your thing.
Yes.
So but then how fast, how long does it take to fill up one Megapack?
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're getting ahead of yourself. At least for the dummy like me. Okay, you're doing this for dummies. Okay, so if I've got to fill up my truck, and I want to be able to put back the 350 miles worth.
Yeah.
And I put this 1,000 watt, is that what it's called? I'm sorry.
300 kilowatt.
300 kilowatt hose into the truck.
Right.
Okay. That baby is going to be sucking up more energy or as much energy as the grid allows.
Right. So if I say, okay, I'm taking this dedicated line, I'm not giving any power to my factory while I'm charging the truck. Right. I'm saying, I must charge up the truck, shut operations. Let's fill up the truck with the 300 kilowatt line. So then the 600 kilowatt hours of the 900 kilowatt hour pack that we're going to fill up, that will take 2 hours, right?
2 hours.
2 hours to do that. And I'm using everything, if it during the day, like that, I can't use anything else. 2 hours. If I only use half of it, it takes me 4 hours.
So let me stop you. So technically I could have the city or the utility pull in one more of those giant hoses.
Cables, massive
I can
cables.
bring one in and just dedicate it to my trucks.
Yeah.
And at 2 hours each, I could 60%, 70% fill my trucks every 2 hours. So that would allow me to fill 12 trucks a day. So
if they're in a line, one after the other, charge for 2 hours, charge for 2 hours, charge for 2 hours.
So that would be one option.
One option.
The city may or may not like that because it's going to put a lot of draw on that substation.
Right. The utility would probably likely tell you to go F yourself. But,
I see. Okay.
Yeah. But but the thing is, like, it's that max thing. So, but also that's taking 2 hours, 4 hours. If you're saying the 4 hour thing,
right?
And then that's assuming you have this complete efficiency and however you set it up, right?
Right.
But if I have a Megapack there, right, then I can get power, 24 hours a day rolling into the thing, and then I can fill up Megapack almost 2 per day using the 300 kilowatt hours. Again, I'm using the dedicated power of it, right? Yeah. So I need to.
So better than that would be if I don't have any other capacity, which we'll talk about in a minute, I would fill it up from 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night until 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that, getting the cheapest rates. I would be filling it half a day. Yeah. Because I can fill one in half a day. Okay.
Well, 1 in half a day. Right. Yeah. And so then not only is it more efficient on my grid, it's cheaper, far cheaper for me to do it then, because the grid, the utility is saying, okay, you're doing this massive amount of draw. We're giving you a wholesale 7 cents, 9 cents a kilowatt hour at night. Versus if you're competing with stuff during the day, then I got to charge you 20 cents, 30 cents, double, triple, or more, right? And also if you're constantly charging, willy-nilly on it, then they could have times when we really need the power. We need to cut you off. So either they cut you off, or they say you are demanding that power. I'm going to charge you $1, $2, 10 to 20 times more than normal, because you're demanding all this power, right? So it's not just you as a better citizen managing the grid, but it's also you getting it far cheaper, you controlling your costs to say, I'm going to keep it at the lowest rate versus.
So basically, while these Megapacks are a couple of $1 million, if you're going to buy 5 trucks, it's or 10 trucks, it's probably very wise to get a Megapack at the same time in your facility in order to have a cheaper source of the energy on a day-to-day basis, as well as to not completely screw up the grid. And so, and to know that you've always got it available. You're not having to dance around to decide when you can fill it, when you cannot fill these trucks when the opportunities are there. Okay, so
and just briefly state that it should be roughly a 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
So roughly, it could be higher, could be lower, but roughly 5 to 1. So if I have 20 trucks, I want 4 Megapacks, somewhere around. Okay. And that also may mean, but it may be on site, maybe it's beside me, it's been 2 miles, like Hertz doesn't have to have a gas station on site. It can go to the gas station. Right. So either my own on site or it's near me. Yeah.
All right. So what 5 to 1. So I'm claiming that these 2 seconds, I need to plug in my computer.
Yeah. Maybe while you're plugging that in. So that again, we talked about the grid issues. So you may be forced to build out a lot of solar. Someone is building. Tesla's someone, a third party, Pepsi, someone is building probably quite a bit of solar if I need 4 Megapacks, because I got one filled by the grid half a day, another one, another substation could fill it, or I'm building a lot of solar in order.
Yeah. So I wanted to come back just for 2 seconds before we go on to solar, because I think solar is a big part of this, an important part of it. So if it's a 5 to 1 ratio, and I'm saying that Tesla would be foolish to sell their semi trucks right now for less than 400,000, but let's go down a little bit. Let's say 300,000. Yeah. So 5 of those trucks would be 1.5 million, and the Megapack would be another couple of million. Is that about right?
Megapack, another couple of million, right? If you're buying in volume, which a Pepsi or Walmart would be 2 million.
Right. And they would make the money back in terms of the storage.
Right.
And they have the ability then also to sell back in most communities, not all communities. They have the ability to sell back to the utilities if the utility needs it in a power surge situation, or just in general, if it makes sense because of arbitrage to send off excess energy during the day. So there's lots of ways that they can make this money, that $2 million back in it, that's over and above the savings that they would have on the truck itself. So that would be about 5 to 1. Now, I had a factory for 25 years. I looked at solar at least 20 years ago as a possibility of putting on my roof. And the only reason I didn't is because I was looking for a faster return on investment on my dollar, ROIC, right? So Tesla is maybe the best ever at ROIC that's ever been as a company.
Return on invested capital.
Return on invested capital. They like to see, they've been able to see consistently getting all their money out of their capital, the profits have returned all the investment within a year or two. And by the way, when I had my factory, that was my plan also, but it was only because I was broke. So I was always looking for the quickest way I could get return on any invested capital. It wasn't because of the best solution. But when I looked at the roof, it was obviously going to be 6, 7 years, 8 years, maybe before I was going to get my money back, even though my electric bill was $1,000 a month. So, but that was 20 years ago. I'm confident that the value proposition has changed dramatically. We know it has since then in terms of a factory putting solar on the roof or a distribution center putting solar on the roof, and yet they're not. But that's all going to change January 1st.
Right.
So the Megapack itself and the solar installation that they might want to do is going to be subject to this new IRA.
Right. Inflation Reduction Act.
Right.
Right. And so they're going to get roughly 50%. So it's not like a dollar credit, but it's basically like if I have a 40% tax rate, state and federal, then it would be 20% to 50%.
About 20%. Okay.
About 20%. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big deal.
And
in addition, of course, it's come down in price. And in addition, it was always a good deal for certain companies. They just didn't do it because of the payoff.
Mhm.
So the payoff might be that Tesla becomes a finance company,
Mhm.
so that it makes more sense. The payoff might be that they just lease the solar and the mega pack to these companies, and maybe there's a lease buy off at the end or something. So there's a lot of ways that they could make it very valuable for the company to install all of this solar and battery capability. So you did some math a little while ago before we started the program, and we figured out that for 1 megapack, it was going to take how many square feet of roof?
So it's the rough rule of thumb, and this is based off a HUD, so a government analysis of it. So rule of thumb is about 100 square feet of roof, 1 kilowatt.
Okay.
Well, not kilowatt hour, 1 kilowatt of solar.
Right.
If you're in 80% of the United States, anything that's at the top part, then you're looking at 4 to 6 hours of pretty sunny, pretty optimal solar power, right? So if you got 1 kilowatt, you would expect 4 to 6 kilowatt hours
Per day.
on a good sunny day.
Uh-huh.
A good sunny day.
Right.
Can drop off to virtually nothing on a bad day, right?
Right.
But 4 to 6. So then if you're in an area with mostly sunny days, then you can get this 4 to 6 kilowatt hours. So then do the calculation, I can fill up that roughly 4 megawatt hour thing with about 150,000 square feet, either on the roof or over a parking lot, roughly that number.
And if you have 5 trucks, you probably have 150,000 feet available.
Right.
Because your building is probably 100,000, and then you got maybe 50,000 on the parking lot.
Yeah. So if you want to kind of visualize in your head, roughly the size of your average Costco.
Yeah.
Right. Roughly the size of the average Costco, you cover it with solar.
Well, I had my little factory was 25,000 square feet, and I was a little midget business, So 100,000 square foot manufacturing or distribution center, that's nothing. I mean, some of these distribution centers are 1 million square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So it would seem like that the guy who has use for 5 trucks a day is also going to have plenty of roof and or parking lot to be able to create the solar. Mm-hmm. So now you have this like triple benefit of factories and warehouses across the country and retail stores across the country that may have been looking for an excuse to put in solar anyway, but they couldn't quite justify it. They want to because they want the PR, they want the virtue signaling. They want to do it for a lot of reasons, maybe because they just believe in environmental, the future is going to be better if we do this. So they got a lot of reasons to do it, but man, they look at the checkbook and they're like, oh, I'm just not 100% sure that this can be justified. All of a sudden, the justification goes up 3 times. Mm-hmm. Number one, I got the solar energy that's going to be cheaper than and eventually going to pay for itself. I've got the battery, which now allows me to maximize my solar and or arbitrage it with the grid. And allows me to buy cheaper at night and et cetera, all the same things that a Powerwall does in your house. So for those of you who already have your Powerwalls or been thinking about it, it's exactly the same thing. So you're arbitraging and you're getting your costs down extremely well. And then third, you might be filling up 5 trucks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now you've got a package. I think I'm going to call Tesla and see if they'd like me to become a Megapack and solar salesman for them, going out and calling on manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds like they've got a package that who could turn it down.
Right. And it's because the package works, but the main part, what is the most powerful part of that package is the fact that the truck is, we said, 4 times, 5 times more efficient on fuel and brake pad costs. Right. That $80,000 going down to $17,000. Right. So that $60,000 of gain, I must have the Megapack to do it, but then the Megapack pays off itself too. But because a Pepsi is going to spend, say, $2 billion a year on diesel fuel for its trucks, and they're saying I can take that down to $500 million of electricity, right? And I can start building out and getting, so that after 5-6 years, when my solar is paid off, I'm getting all my truck movement for free. So then it's like, so that becomes the incredible, like, not, I kind of like it, you know, the business case is pretty good. It becomes, I have no option, right? If I don't do it, I'm going to be 10% over the cost of Coca-Cola or whatever, right? You know, am I going to pay, $1.10 for my Coke, right? It becomes like the competitive situation becomes, this is not a maybe, I got to do it. Right?
The ones that are going to be completely crazy not to do it are going to be the package haulers themselves, the UPSs and the FedExes, because they don't just have the little brown trucks, they've got the big semis also that are taking what the little brown trucks take over to the distribution center. And so they would be just as crazy not to be doing this, because if UPS does it and FedEx does, game over. Yeah. Right. Interesting. Yeah. Well, this is wild and crazy. You have, I think you're in the lead on this. Once again, it's one of our 4 authors that, that we're constantly, I think, grabbing the lead on some of these stories. The energy pack story was one that we were totally ahead on. And now I think this entire semi-truck combination, Megapack and solar is definitely another place, Brian, where you've grabbed the lead, and you should be all over the news. Where's the New York Times and Washington Post?
But it's also just connecting the dots. It's like, because you have this huge driver to say, again, the truck, Tesla must dominate semi-trucks because of this technology, economic advantage over electric truck competition and over diesel truck competition. And then you get that to a terawatt of batteries per year. And then you get the Megapacks to a terawatt of batteries per year, or even 2 terawatts of batteries per year. Then you're well on your way to, that 8-10 terawatt hour plan that Elon talked about, right? He mentioned that for people who follow it. People don't, they don't know. So Tesla this year uses about 150 gigawatt hours of batteries, all cars, all products, whatever, roughly 150 gigawatt hours this year. Right. Which is double or more any other competitor, probably 10x many competitors, 20x many competitors, many. So when they go to, and they dominate semi trucks and they dominate energy, right? The Megapack energy thing, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. Then when you go to 3 terawatt hours, then you are 20x
what you are today.
Just on batteries, right? Of course, also the cars will grow another 5-10x, right?
Yeah, you're just talking about what is the host.
Right.
I mean, is it a truck? Is it a medium-sized truck? Is it a little truck? Is it a car? Is it an Optimus? It's a little tiny battery, but but it's just really, what is the host? So you're basically saying, you're using a little bit of the Warren Redlick approach of saying, well, we're gonna be at 3 terawatts. What do you care what the host is? That's 20 times where we are today in terms of revenues and property profits.
So then going to the aspect of the battery situation is that analyzing the, when do we have that many terawatt of batteries? So we have the batteries, right? How long does it take to scale up the 4680s? The thing is, China makes about 80% of the world's battery, car grade batteries, CATL being the biggest one, and they're a major supplier to Tesla, right? The Chinese companies, battery companies, have invested on the order of $200 billion into making a lot of batteries. How many batteries? 2 terawatt hours for 2025. So in 3 years, they're at 2 terawatt hours. The Inflation Reduction Act means that the U.S. is racing to 1 terawatt hour, and it's going to be mostly Tesla.
By
2025, 2026-ish, whatever, in that range. Some of the Chinese guys that come over to try and get some of that U.S. tax dollar, and they will make some of that too. So we're looking at 3 terawatt hours likely in 2025. We used about 600 gigawatt hours. So we're going up 5x in batteries from this year to, so And then we go up even higher. People go 6 to 10, 7 to 10, but I think, could scale up higher by 2030, right? But let's say 2025, right? So we're going from battery constrained world. We don't have enough batteries for all the EVs we're going to make to we have an abundance of batteries. If we have 50 million cars, which no one says we're going to do in 2025, you're in that 1 terawatt hour range for your cars, right? So then you're at 2 terawatt extra for other stuff, for trucks or for storage. And you may not even be able to convert. So in this abundance of battery world, right? The other guy's competing, okay, what am I going to do with my share of 1 terawatt hour, 1.2 terawatt hour for my EVs? But then no one else is going to scale. They're not going to say, even Tesla will have because if they're at 50,000 by 2024, 2024, right? Semi, that was the goal on semi.
Right.
Then, if you 4x that to 200,000 by 2025, that's on the order of 200 gigawatt hours. So you're not even using all that. So it's trying to pack it into the megapacks that if you have the need for it to build up the grid and the profitable business model. Right?
Okay, so now you're doing it. Yeah, you're doing it again, Brian. Now nobody's talking about having an abundance of batteries by 2025. Nobody said that before. If they did, I would have seen it.
Right.
So we're breaking more news here.
Right.
So what we need to do, maybe in another video sometime, we need maybe to look at the current projections by these various battery companies, the majors. We don't have to go into little ones.
Yeah.
And you probably already have this all at the top of your head, but the CATLs or whatever.
I have my spreadsheet. Yeah.
You have your spreadsheet. So we probably need to look at that separately. But if we're talking about 3 terawatts by 2025, that these companies who are already in the battery business and know how to scale, know how to build out plants and have proven they can do this. If we get to 3 terawatts by 2025, I agree with you. We'll have an abundance.
Yeah, even 2 terawatt hours.
Even 2 probably is enough.
Yeah, you have an 800 gigawatt hour excess, and
then all of a sudden the limiting factor, to use a phrase, the limiting factor, hat tip to Gordon, is Jordan. I'm sorry, to Jordan. Hat tip to Jordan.
Limiting factor.
We're no longer talking about the limiting factor, at least between now and 27. Now, maybe if we're building all EVs in 2027 and we've got a lot of storage going out, and we're making a lot of trucks, maybe we'll have a bump in the road, or do you think we'll have plenty from now on, or will we get into the limiting factor being raw materials?
Yeah, so then you start hitting into raw material limitations. It's also the factory limitations, right? You have to make more factories to do it. Tesla, I think, could have gotten 80 gigawatt hours of batteries from CATL from a plant they're making beside the Shanghai factory. They could have had that this year. So I had thought, if they could convert all of that to stuff, they'd be at 200 gigawatt hours instead of the 150. So they weren't able to. The COVID shutdown didn't help, but so there are, even for Tesla, execution limits. So, but then it's not that the Chinese guys aren't pumping out insane numbers it's kind of like what China did with solar, right? Where China dominated all the solar panel market, right? Where they made all the production, and just the national government chose to own solar panels, right? So there was a time where solar was a glut of solar, solar panels, where the price dove because they were making so many, right? Same kind of thing, where if you oversupply relative demand, you have a glut, and then the price drops. So instead of our undersupply and the price goes up, it oversupplies and the price goes down, and you can't really match it up because
it's always impossible,
right? So I'm saying that there will be likely, even with the megapacks, the production limitation means there will be a glut if the Chinese guys roll it. They can manage it some by saying, okay, I'll slow up my production, or I won't open that factory quite as well. I'll delay it. You can manage it some, but you could definitely get to oversupply situation. How long that lasts, But then they still want to say, we want to get to 6 terawatt hours, 10 terawatt hours total
by 2030.
2030.
Right.
So, they have to like press on through the glut, right? And then just keep going to do that. But then on the demand side, if your Volkswagen is talking about, we'll have 6 40 gigawatt hour plants, we'll have 240 gigawatt hours in 2030, right?
Right.
Then it's like, they're saying we will be, if we're still alive, 1/20th the size of Tesla. It's like, I'm guaranteeing a minor point, but the thing is, like, they can't even afford it. It's like, oh, that still is hundreds of billions.
But actually, what you're saying should be good news to the buyers and the marketers at General Motors, Ford, Volkswagen, Toyota, everybody, that in fact, even though they are not thinking ahead about getting their battery supplies, that there's going to be sufficient battery supplies from the primary makers, and that they just have to make sure their cars can accept those batteries, which they probably can. So it seems like that would be good news to these guys. And I think you have heard me say a couple of months ago that I thought that there would not be a problem with battery supply until 2027. Of course, that was completely from my gut, but now we have the science, folks. Brian's done the math. So that it just made sense to me. It looked like it was going to be plenty, but I do see this hump. I do see this hump that we may have to, in terms of raw materials, around 2027, 2028. Yeah,
as you're pushing towards 6 terawatt hours, you got to bring on ideally non-lithium supply. You can try and increase your lithium supply, but then it's trouble. You can try and improve lithium efficiency, in terms of like getting more efficient with it. But if you want all the mega packs, all the batteries for trucks, you want to solve sodium batteries or something else. I think sodium's the one that will scale up to do it. But then it's a big lift to get that production up. The iron LFP was a miracle in that it scales up 2 to 4 times faster than nickel. If we didn't have the iron LFP, we'd be at 1/3.
Already in trouble.
Already at 1/3 the battery supply. The iron stuff, because not only was it cheaper, but it was it's the factories scale up beautifully so that I can build them 4 times faster or whatever. Nice. So if sodium the same way, everything's great.
Right.
If sodium is different, but in theory they should go to the same factory. CATL, the biggest battery maker in the world, thinks they can scale the supply chain. Right?
Yeah, and in exactly the same factories that they're doing it now. Yeah.
Pretty much the same factories. So they will have obviously the power of the entire Chinese government, city, municipal, federal, saying whatever you need, CATL, you're going to amass your sodium batteries at terawatt hours of scale, because that's what it is. When people talk about blah 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 solid state batteries, gigawatt hours, 10 gigawatt hours, meaningless for this overall cap. It's a nice marketing. You can use something, maybe some tiny airplane EV thing or something like that. Cool. Drone, something cool. Yes. But not the I'm going to change the global energy grid kind of. I'm a player in that, right? 2025. If it's not terawatt hour, it's it becomes a rounding error in the 3 terawatt hour thing. If we're 10 terawatt hours, and then if it's not 2 terawatt hours that the thing is contributing to, then it's like you're different between 10 and 12. And then, 2035, you could be at 20 or something like that. Right. If you're not talking terawatt hours past 2027, then it's like,
then you're
not a major,
not a player.
You're not a player. You're rounding error.
Right. Right. Hey, great, Brian. This has been super. It's always fun to be able to dive into the future of Tesla and the future of basically the future abundant world. I think there's a book coming.
Yes.
Might touch on that. Okay, great.
We'll work on together. Yes.
I'm glad we were able to do this today.
Okay, good to talk to you. And people can like and subscribe to this video, and also to support me on Patreon for Next Big Future, and also my website, nextbigfuture.com. And of course, Ryan has a couple of books, and the Elon Musk mission and the Elon Musk method. So
follow me on Twitter.
Yep.
We'll follow you back unless you're a bot.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Bye.
Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.